Hi, my name is Sally Barnard, an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer. Welcome to Call Me Zena, a true story into the spiritual realms. Join me as I sit and discuss the journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. It's time to trust your intuition. This is your inner knowings. Through questions and points of conversation, I can help others feel empowered. With the ability to touch people's past lives, I help others connect and not feel alone. Sit with me and call in live, 888-994-4995. Hi everybody, new time, same people. Okay, this is Russ Johnson. He's my guest for the day, for the first hour of our show today. You're going to stay the whole hour, I hope, Russ. Yes. Just want to say hello to everybody, and also what I'm actually beginning to understand, and I just want to open my show with this, that laughter and humor is so very important. If you listen to the Brooklyn Cafe before I came on, it was amazing. We just had so many laughs, and it's just put me in the best zone, let's speak about what we're going to talk about. But I believe humor is really important. On the serious side, humor is important. Okay, so you are my guest for the day, and we have for the hour, and we have some people in the studio audience that I know are waiting to ask me a few questions. So let's open it up to the studio audience, and anyone that's listening that wants to call in, 888-994-4995 Studio A with any questions that you have. We actually have advertised this as a UFO and aliens, but any questions are answered here on my show. As you know, anything goes. Okay, so let's open it up to the studio audience right now.
Sally, I had asked this on the afternoon show. Don had said that there was news about a discovery of salt water on Mars, and I was wanting to know if the flood that occurred in Noah's time, if the flood was universal, did it
Actually,
wipe out the whole Earth and planets?
I actually do, from my guide who actually had told me a little bit about this. I believed actually the Bible is accurate as far as that goes. There was a flood here on Earth. But what we don't know, and I'm going to say was left out of the Bible, because there are things that are left out, as we were talking about Karen before, there are tablets that explain a lot of this. There is life, so to speak, on other planets, which I know that you understand too, Russ. I don't want to leave you out of this conversation. Sure. But when the flood occurred, what actually happened is that there were, as they even kind of talk about it in the Bible, but it's not explained exactly as what I'm about to say, there were rocket ships that were coming down. So the people that knew about that actually, from what I heard from Aldo, went up to their planets. A lot of them went down below the surface. But there was what we call, and we had mentioned this, a way station on Mars. Mars, as far as I know, I mean, I don't expect people to believe this or understand it, but from what I hear is that Mars was inhabited at that point, and they would fuel their rocket ships on Mars itself. So, and I drew from this. So to me, it's not so way out. I was drawing rocket ships that were kind of being so-called, they were there on Mars, which my guide had explained to me. So for them to continue to Earth, to save our planet at that point, they refueled on Mars. So the fact that they have said this, even, I believe you heard this on the news?
Yes.
Right. Okay, I believe this. I absolutely believe that there was life on Mars. And I don't know right now, but there was life on Mars, yes.
Sally, thank you so much for letting me be part of your show. And actually, being an astrologer, I understand how souls are connected on scientific level. Being an empath, I understand how they're connected energetically. But is it real that it's possible to hear voices and messages from our ancestors who passed away?
Absolutely, yes. And as Ross, I don't want to leave you out on this, but you've heard me say this many times. Yes, we do hear messages. We hear messages from our loved ones. It's just that we have to open up to this. We have to believe that this is so, and they are ready to talk to us. They're here all the time. We are not always ready to listen. So the most important part, if I can give anyone a message that's listening and today, is that they are ready to talk to us. We have to be ready to listen. The only way that we can become ready to listen is to believe that there's a little bit more than what we see just here. I mean, I've had, as a person, if I talk about myself, I've had many messages. I've had messages that I'm able to give to people. How am I able to give them names of their relatives? I don't. For instance, we've just met. We have a nice connection, but I don't know your relatives. But I'm able to give people their first and last names. How is this possible?
When are we going to do that?
Okay, we'll do that another time. But just to, I've had people say to me, how does that happen? Because we're ready. If you're ready to listen, to open up to the fact that there's more, I believe we'll hear a lot more. I'm not unique in this. You know, we talk, Russ and I, as he is my guest, just introduced you, that we talk a lot about UFOs, and we're talking about people that have been abducted. But the energy doesn't stop with their abduction. It goes on to people that have already been abducted, that can hear what their messages are. So it's vast. It's numerous people. It's our relatives. It's people that we've connected with and that are here on previous lifetimes. If just open up, believe it, and then amazing things happen.
I have a question now, bouncing off of Irina's.
Okay.
Is who takes care of us when we're unconscious?
Okay, I love that question, Karen. Just to say that we did have a little bit of a conversation prior to me coming on the air here,
yes.
But that's an important question. I believe that what we have is a higher self. And our higher self, so to speak, is never asleep. We sleep here. We go to sleep, we wake up. But if anything was to happen, let's say we're in a house and there's an emergency, our higher self, plus our guides, is always around us. So we will sense that something is going on. We may even at this point, and they're telling me in a dream, we can say, what's that noise? I mean, I'm not here to frighten people, but things do happen when we're sleeping. Most of the time, if we're aware, we will wake up. They will wake us up. And you had mentioned someone in a coma. Well, I believe that, yes, in a coma, we are here to all set and purposes. If someone's talking to someone in a coma, we think they can't hear. They can, but they're not necessarily able to respond. But our highest self, which we have, is part of that, and we'll be listening to that.
So we have our connection with our higher self is that voice that tells us, yes, go this way, no, don't do that.
Right, yes, which I have talked about. That's our inner, our gut feeling. It's our higher self trying to say, go that way or go this way. Plus our guides. Our guides never leave us. We just have to believe that they're around us.
And our guardian angels?
Yes, it's all, we have a lot of people actually that are watching us. We just don't know it. But when we begin to and we open up to that, they're here. They're here. And I feel that my message that I'm giving is helping people to understand that we're not alone. We think we're alone, but we're not alone. I've had a lot of proof on that.
Wow.
For myself personally, yes.
Okay. She mentioned Mars. It's a lot of research out there, a lot of books, a lot of shows that really delve into all of this. Believe it or not, there's a secret space force that the United States has, that they have people on Mars, and they go to Mars and they go to other planets. And it's been doing that for the last 60, 70 years. So it's not, a lot of people, it's hard for people to believe because they think in terms of NASA, maybe we've been to the moon, they say, some say that. But they just don't know the real history because it's been kept secret for the last 40, 50, 60 years. But yeah, we do have a secret space force that goes to the moon, goes to other planets.
Well, that's what I had said earlier, that nowadays we are getting more insight to aliens, UFOs, and
True.
the advancement in technologies is showing us all of these things.
Yeah. There are people who have been doing research for 80 years or beyond 40, 50. For instance, Dr. Stephen Greer, you might want to go to his website. He has a documentary called Unacknowledged that you might want to watch that. About 600 million people have watched it already. So you might want, he did that maybe 10 years ago. But he has another one coming out very soon, and that he expects 1 billion people will be watching that, where he will tell you about what I just mentioned, that we do have a secret space force that's been developed for the last 40 or 50 or 60 since the 1940s, and we do have astronauts who go to the moon and other planets, go to Mars, Saturn, maybe Andromeda. So that's already been done, but it's kept away from us up to this point in terms of that whole thing that's been hidden for many, many years.
Hi, Sally.
What is you? I know that. Yes. What is your question?
I wanted to know what my guys are telling me for today.
As usual, I have to tell you this, okay? Please, whatever. You're very in tune with them, and I think you know. And I also believe that you have dreams at night about some of the messages. They're really, really trying to contact you. The fact that you talk on my show is really good because they're seeing that you're doing this. You are being watched by them.
Yeah, I could feel my head being fuzzy in my arms.
I feel that very strongly. You're being very guided. I'm not sure what their message is. You are, not me, okay? But I'm here to tell you that they are watching you. So whatever you do, if you have a slight, say to yourself, am I doing the right thing? And I think you've been feeling this sometimes. Go with your strong intuition. Again, I'm not necessarily hearing their message. For some reason, they don't want me to air this in public for some reason. And you might understand that, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
But go with what they're telling you. They are around you, and you know that, okay? So quit this negativity. Please, quit this. It's very important. That I'm hearing, okay? Because they're not going to give you negativity. You think they may be, or you think something's going on. And I don't mean to shout at you over this.
I get it.
It's really important that you understand this, okay? They're giving you positivity. Please stay with that. I've told you that before.
Yes, ma'am.
And they're trying so hard to get through to you. What you may be imagining, you're only imagining that because you can change it. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
You know that. Keep a positive attitude, okay?
Thank you.
very important.
Thank you, Sally.
You're welcome.
Sally, I got one real quick.
Yes.
I'm on E3. Just a simple, basic question, but what is your outlook on life? Like, what is life to you?
Life is a journey to me. My immediate reaction is we're all on a journey of discovery, but we're all at different points on this discovery road. I have learned over the last, I'm going to say 18 years, I opened up to so much more. But I'm not that young anymore, so I had many years of not understanding that. But what I do when I look back into what was happening to me, it was all a way of creating what was going to happen when it happened to me 18, 19 years ago. But we're all on different stages of our journey. But again, I just have to tell you that the most important thing, things happen, yes, and they're not good, but there's always a reason. So as long as we stay as positive as we can, it's not always easy to stay positive when we see things happen, but we're learning from that. So even the most horrible things that we think are horrible, there's a lesson in that. So we have to follow that. It's so important as we're going through something that may be negative, and we're all human here, as we call it. Just see that, what can I learn from that? And when good happens, gratitude, which we had prior to this show, is very important. Oh, thank you. It doesn't matter who you're thanking, just thank. Say thank you so much for that message. It's so very important. That message is important. So as I always say, my show is about positivity because it helps us through our life to be positive. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, of course. And then I know you like to talk about past lives a lot, and I do feel a strong connection to a certain past life of mine too. So for each life that you have, are you supposed to learn something specific, or is every life just another story or another journey to have?
No life is wasted. That's what I feel that they're telling me. But you can't bring in all. We've had many, many lifetimes. They were all different. We've had more, we've had less than perhaps the people that we talk with. But each lifetime is an important stepping stone into another lifetime to begin our journey of, as they're telling me, of discovery. But we can't bring in all our lifetimes like we don't remember our lifetimes. There's a reason for that. But what is important, we might get it in dreams, we might meet people that open up to us that were in a previous life, because the messages that we get in the lifetime that we are in this lifetime, we will bring in people. It's up to us kind of to interpret that. You know, we might meet someone and feel that we've known them. We might have a dislike or a like for somebody. So that lifetime that we were in with that other person is, for some reason, I don't know the answers, but it's important for this lifetime. So we take segments, bits and pieces from other lifetimes that we bring into this life to help us continue our journey. And the people that we meet in this lifetime, I believe we all meet up again, but it might not be in the next lifetime. It could be 3 lifetimes from now. Whatever is important for us to understand. It's like we're in a school and we're learning and we're learning and we're learning.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Sally.
So bouncing off that question that Josh had, are we like a cat with 9 lives? Do we actually experiment different life cycles in our lifetime?
Yes, we play many parts, Karen. To simplify this, we don't necessarily I like that what you said, a cat with 9 lives, but we have many lives, and each life that we have is there is an importance in each lifetime. It might be of very little significance, it might be a lot. For me personally, to talk about myself, I knew a lot of this in the 15th century of what I'm talking about, but I was lucky enough to have my guide here that was here as my friend who materialized in this life. And he told me a lot of what I knew, which I was drawing. So to me, it wasn't made up. I'm drawing from that lifetime and didn't know what I was drawing. But he told me what I was drawing, and he was here to help me. And he told me that I knew what I know now, but I didn't know it. So he was here to wake me up to what I already knew. But he only approached me when I opened up, when I started to project myself and through the astral plane. But I might not, if I was ready. But having said that, from the 15th century to this lifetime, which he explained to me, what I knew never left me, but it was dormant in other lifetimes. So the way that I'm talking now, I don't have a lot of memory from my previous lifetimes from then, from the 15th to now, but I didn't discuss it. I was ready to wake up. I was like, they knocked me on my head and said, start drawing. How do you draw if you've never seen this? So I began to question, and questioning is very important.
Sally, every day we're given the opportunity to learn another experience in our present life. Every day we have the ability of raising awareness and vibration to make that spectacular. We're conscious of the fact that it's here, but are we conscious of the fact that we have to work at raising its vibration?
Well, we're not necessarily conscious of it. We do know that somewhere in our psyche, let's say, but by me doing this show and for me to begin to wake up, to go through my own experiences, I'm hoping to wake up other people, that there's a reason that we're here. There's a reason that we're learning. There's a reason that bad and good things happen to us. From what I have learned today, from what I've been told, and also from my guide who was here, is that we're play acting and we play many different parts, but we're all at different stages on our journey. I'm ready here to wake up to more of what was happening. As a good example of you, Russ, I realized today, and it's a little off the subject, but I have been abducted many times. I wasn't completely aware of that, but when I met you and we began to start to talk about it, I realized that I was being abducted. Where this plays in on my journey, I'm still not sure, but I know what happened to me. So all these things that happen, as long as we begin to understand and question it, that's the most important. Again, we're all at different stages. I'm at a different stage than you are, or you are, but we're all here to learn. And I think just by understanding that we're all here to learn will help us understand a little more. Bless you. Does that answer a little bit of the question?
Yes,
I get
and
carried away sometimes on a different
my
subject.
other question is, how come in our lifetime, like for me, for example, I'm in my 30s, but I've experienced way more than a normal 36-year-old. So for me, why is it that some of us have more tests than others?
Because I believe that as it's an ongoing journey. And from what I know, of course I don't have proof, it's from what I hear, the harder our life is, we're more on our journey. We're more here to open up. Because if life was just, nobody has an easy life. Even if they tell you there's something that's happened in their life. We're here to experience and understand. But as we go further into this journey and begin to wake up more, as they call it, waking up, we actually have more difficult lifetimes because we need to overcome a lot of these things. We're here to experience good and bad, but for some reason in the process of waking up, we seem to have a lot more than some people. We're never given, and I've heard this many times, but it's beginning to ring more true to me, more than we can handle, okay? And I know people can say, well, someone was given more because they're not here anymore, they couldn't take it. But everything, and I don't particularly want to call suicide, a way out, because we still come back, but we've all chosen that. So if we get to that point, and if the only way out at that point is suicide, then, it hurts the people here. Does it hurt that person? I'm here to say no. I don't know, but I want people that have lost people to suicide understand that that was their choice. It doesn't stop them continuing their journey. For some reason, I was told to say that.
Sally, could you explain the nature of dreams?
Dreams is our subconscious. It takes in a lot of things, from even previous lifetimes. As I heard from my guide, we have what we call a super consciousness. So if you want to say our subconscious is here, and then we have a super conscious that's further down, so to speak. So we bring in what we may need. Dreams, not every dream, some of it is just like we talk here, it doesn't mean anything, but some of them that we remember are important for something that we should be learning in this lifetime. And I didn't do this until I started to astral project, but I believe that we should document. So if we remember when we're dreaming something and we still remember it when we wake up, I believe it's important to document that. I am not a reader or a writer, actually, but I did start to document because I realized it was important. And then sometimes, maybe a year or two later, we'll go, oh, that's why I had that dream. It's in our subconscious, but not everything is that important in our subconscious.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
most
why
peop-
do we have dreams that are repetitive? Like
Okay, then they're going like they did with me. Wake up to this. It's an important message. Our dreams do have messages for us. Not all the dreams, again, it's all different, but if we continue to have, and I did as a child, I used to have the same dream. It wasn't a pleasant dream, and I used to, at that point, say, please, I don't want this nightmare anymore, but it was an important something that was happening in my life.
okay, because based on that, I'm divorcing, and I have dreams that I'm fighting all the time, and and I've been having this dream repeatedly, but I'm over him, and he's moved on, but they're both in my dreams sometimes.
It's embedded
bothering
in
me.
your subconscious. There is a way to get rid of that, Karen. If you
Okay.
feel that you're over it, voice that, hey, I'm over this.
Okay.
Stop dreaming this. And Aldo, my guide who was here, told me this too. When I was astral projecting, I'm going all over the place. I said, I want to go to specific places. And I feel this relates to a little bit of what you're saying. He used to say, voice it. Say, I want to go here or I want to go there. we can control. We can control our dreams too. It's the same thing.
Wow. And then one question that I did have, but we only see it once in the Bible, was Enoch and the chariot of fire. Was he abducted? That was an abduction?
Yes, and I'll let Russ, because I know you understand this, to explain a little more, because I feel bad that you're my guest and I'm taking.
That's great.
But yes, it is a form of, when they say these things, and I'm going to quote something else from the Bible too, that Aldo used to explain to me. Don't have to believe it, but it just sends your mind into a slightly different direction. When he said to me that Jonah, who was swallowed by the whale, right? He used to say to me, does that make more sense that maybe it was a submarine that took him? I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it's similar to what you're saying. We saw these things, but they didn't know what they were. So if something is coming down, it's a chariot, maybe it was a rocket. Okay, that makes more sense to what we're thinking about today in our society, right? So if we start thinking and looking at it slightly differently, don't have to, but it has a little more meaning. Because I'm not here to criticize the Bible, but it seems like swallowed by a whale, oh my gosh, could have happened, but maybe a submarine makes a little bit more sense.
Wow. And then now that we're talking about this, so transformation in your life, change can only begin with you, yourself.
With us. I was
with
just,
me.
change begins with you.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's entirely up to us. We can believe whatever we want to believe. It doesn't matter. But when something, let's say, dramatic in your life, as you have had, Karen, I know that, it begins to make not sense, because you don't always understand when it's a tremendous tragedy, but you say to yourself, why, poor me, okay, why did this happen? But when you start questioning it, when you question, that's what's very important. Question why, and you will get the answers. Maybe not right away.
So like a butterfly, the caterpillar is scary looking and not the prettiest, and the cocoon is also an ugly phase of the butterfly, but when the butterfly comes out, it has beautiful colors and beautiful patterns on its wings, and it's a beautiful creature to look at, because it started off as a caterpillar, then it became a butterfly.
Perfect example.
The wings to fly.
Perfect example. And if we carry that with us in our thought process as things are going on, when you're in a cocoon, in your, let's say, like even in a prison, you want to get out of that. When you do and you escape that, you go from here to something. There's so much more out there. Just bring it into your psyche, into what you believe, and you will fly. You will experience so much. But the most important is to believe this. You have to believe it. Without that belief, it could happen, but you can miss it. You can miss it.
Right. Wow. So when do we get to that stage to say, I finally learned.
Love
I
it.
finally got it.
Well, we don't. I don't mean to say there's good and bad to that. When we continue to learn, but we'll get over that certain amount. It's when we're ready. If there's a certain thing that's bothering you, it'll keep coming back into other lifetimes too. It's like karma. When we're eventually over it, we're over it. But guess what? There's something else waiting for us. Eventually, I do not have the answers to the end of this, but it does end, okay?
So
it does end.
Yes, and since we're human, and we're human is to err, we make mistakes. Why is it that some humans are stubborn and don't realize the mistake that was made before and then commit again?
Not ready. It's as easy as that. Sometimes, we'll keep repeating that. It'll come, as we call it, karma. It'll come back in different forms. It's the same scenario, but with a different aspect of it. So the outcome each time will be different until we begin to understand that this is a lesson that we're about to learn. So that same scenario will keep repeating itself into each lifetime, as far as I know, until we're ready to so-called wake up. And then it does get, just to put this on the positive side, it gets easier. It's difficult in the
Yes.
beginning, but it will get easier eventually.
So who we are today is not who we were tomorrow.
Perfect. Absolutely. No, because we need to learn.
Right.
And but the main part of this, and it's good what you're asking me, because even for myself to understand this, we need to know we're on a journey. And as we're on a journey, all these scenarios play out in different situations. Even, you know, you often hear that somebody, maybe in a relationship, keeps choosing that same partner, different person, but the same characteristics that they left that first person, and then go on to the next person, and they'll suddenly say, oh my gosh, same characteristics. There are different people out there. We do that until we learn, and that's really important. They're giving me this message right now, because until we wake up to that, we will keep repeating that until
Sally?
we've gotten over that particular person and whatever they have. It's just a different face.
I just had a wow moment because Irina had said that to me when I was talking to her on commercial break.
There you go.
That if we don't heal who we were when we were younger, or if we don't heal, we'll end up finding the same character.
Absolutely. I'm a great believer of that. It's just a different face, that's all, you know. It's a different face, but they will have the same characteristics. But once we're aware of that, to make this positive, we begin to understand that. So we begin to maybe, if we're ready, say, that person seems to have the same characteristics as somebody else that I used to know. So walk away.
Wow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So why don't you talk about your experiences in terms of, you say you have been incarnated here on Earth a number of times.
I have.
You're beginning to remember some of the incarnations, right?
Yes, I am, Russ, and that's kind of important, because I'm voicing a lot of what I'm going through on this show.
Right.
But what it's done for me personally is for me to understand more. I'm opening up. I'm getting more sensitive, so to speak, or I can understand more. So I'm in a position that I'm able to rediscover basically who I am and what I have done. Not everybody's I'm not saying I'm any better or any less than anyone else, but I am beginning to see that life is a discovery of actually who we are. So I'm able to do this a little more, but what I'm trying to do with people, and it's for them to understand that I'm not different to anyone else. We can all do what I'm doing. I'm ready to begin to understand a lot of things. So we are given many messages to begin to see who we really are. So if we listen to that and we understand that, and there are people, you know, you don't have to call me, there are other people out there that can help you. I'm ready to help people on this journey. I'm ready for them to understand more of what they're going through. I need some help myself, because I believe, as you know, I've been abducted many times, and I've said this before. I need someone to help me to understand what exactly happened to me. So we're all at different stages, basically.
How is it that you know that you had an abduction?
Well, actually, I've had several, Karen, and thank you for that question. I did not know that in the beginning. And maybe many of our listeners right now understand we have an astral plane. So I was traveling to many different places. But the more that and I was documenting it, and I was going to planets, but the more that I began to see what was actually happening, and Russ, you had a part of this in my journey too, is that I was beginning to see that maybe I wasn't just what we call astral projecting, that I'm going to these places. I had this feeling that I was being abducted, not all the time, but a lot of the time, by people that were showing me much more. Again, I do want to say that it's a positive, not a negative for me. I'm not saying this happens to everybody, but mine has been very, very positive. And I'm seeing now, because I was talking to people from other planets, they were telling me what planets they were on. I didn't fully understand it, but I knew something was happening to me because I was flying there in what we call like spacecrafts. Mine was a longer one, it wasn't so much a round one, but from what I hear from people, and I'm opening up more myself to see what happens to people, what they describe is exactly what I was seeing. So, thank you for that question.
Do people?
We're going for a commercial? Great. Okay, we're actually, please stay tuned, and if you have any questions, anything for me, for us, anybody that's out there that wants to hear a little more about my abductions, please voice it and we'll talk more. Thank you. See you in a few minutes on the other side of this commercial. This world, this life, this illusion. What is going on, we ask? What is happening? Why not take time and see what is happening? This world as we know it, it seems so real and yet so far away from where we've come. Corruption, greed, anger, power, revenge. Please wake up. We can change what is around us. How, we may ask. Learn to go back to where we were. Then we will have the clues. Then we can change and go forward. Please take the time. Do not fall into the game which we have put upon ourselves. We can change. We can make a difference. We have the power, each and every one of us. Go in peace. Go with love. Go as one. Zena.
A true story, Call Me Zena is the telling of Sally Barnard. Born in London, England at the end of the Second World War, she came to the U.S. in 1979. A mother of two and grandmother of four, she settled in Florida and worked in real estate. While going through a difficult time in her life, she was admitted into a hospital overnight in December of 2005. While settling back into her life, she began having vivid dreams and documenting them. By the third dream, a lady gave her a message to draw. With no artistic background or interest in art or history, Sally listened to her dreams and grabbed paper and crayons. Today, she has over 150 pieces of inspiring art and poetry. This book follows her journey and interpretations of these messages. She describes in detail how she's able to astral project and who she has met along her travels, including her spirit guides. This book will show you how anything is possible with an open mind. These events have changed Sally's life's direction, and this book will show you how to change yours. Purchase Call Me Zena on Amazon today.
You have been watching Call Me Zena with your host, Sally Barnard. As an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer, know that you could always seek me out for resources. Visit artbysallybarnard.com today. Now, back to the show. Hello, everybody. We're back. Studio, anybody listening, please, questions for us.
Yeah, Karen has a lot of questions, and so she was saying that her, what did you say, your brother?
My twin brother.
Okay, what was he telling you? What did
He was talking to me like he's had me listen to the Emerald Tablets.
Okay.
He's been really interested in the Book of Enoch and something about Enki that he's mentioned to us as well. And he's talked to me about UFOs and aliens and how the Bible is missing some books that were written but are not included in it.
True.
So some people that have done their research, they've discovered all these missing things, and they're bringing it to light now.
Which I find it's a continuation, Russ, of what we're talking about. As I said to Karen, bring that up, because when I mentioned the Lost Book of Enki, just to give people the audience so they understand a little bit, it's a lot of what we talk about with the UFOs that came down. And here in the studio, we just met here a little while ago.
Right.
And yet your brother, your twin brother, is understanding all this, because not many people, and our listeners are probably saying, who is Enki? Who is Enlil? He knows. So none of what we bring in, just to bring this into the studio so people understand, is coincidence. We attract, through which many people have heard of the law of attraction. we attract this vibration. I mean, we can go into it more, and obviously we maybe do a show on this, but to just show you that something that most people may not understand, and yet here your twin is telling you about this. None of this is coincidence.
My brother actually has also said to us that he's not of this planet. And he was like, he lived 3,000 years ago or something like that. Like, some of the information he's researched and studied on, he's like, it's amazing. I didn't know about all of this until he started mentioning it to me and my mother.
Well, I'd love for him, maybe, perhaps he'd like, he lives here because he lives with you, right? Come on to the show, because again, I think maybe it's important to him. And for, you know, I want to bring this to our listeners too, because there may be people out there we're not aware of who's listening, but that vibrational energy goes out. So if there's anybody listening on the show that might want to call in, maybe not now, even just on the internet, to type the question of something that they may have a remembrance of. It's so important for them to be able to do that. As they know, I am on Facebook, and this show goes out to Call Me Zena. Not that many people may be listening right now, but they'll listen to the recording. That's a very, very good example of what we're talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing how we definitely have a connection.
Without a doubt.
All
Karen.
of us.
Yes.
So one thing that you mentioned was we come back from another life, and we're
Yes, we do. We continue. It's like, let's say, even reading a book. We get to the last chapter, we put the book down. That's not the end necessarily. Someone wrote that book. They may have a sequence, or I listen to Netflix, and some of these series go on forever. That's what we're doing. We continue. But from what I understand, in other lifetimes, when we come back, we pick out the most significant lessons that we may have learned from another lifetime to bring them into the next lifetime. We can't bring everything back, because I believe we've come back many, many times. So we bring in what's important to continue our journey here. But we get help. As example, your twin brother is talking about what I've been talking about. I didn't know you, Karen, a little while ago.
Right.
And yet you're here in the studio. As I met you, Ross, you came in, I'm writing my book, and here you were. I felt that I knew you. Again, I can't see if Freddie and Dawn are still sitting there. I believe they are. I felt very much at home with Freddie and Dawn. I'm talking about spirituality. They may not know what I was going to be talking about, and yet when I opened up, I felt that they really understood me and had a lot to offer in their cafe here with what was happening to me. This is not coincidence. And I'd love to hear either from Freddie or Dawn to maybe elaborate a little bit on that. Do you feel that?
Let me follow on this.
Okay.
Karen was talking about Enlil, Inky, and all that. Could you go back in history and help her? Because she might want to do some research on those too.
I would, and again, that may be another show, and we'll have you on the show, Karen. But yes, you can go back. This is going back. I learned from my guide, Aldo, here about Enki and Enlil. This is going back thousands and thousands of years. Wow. But there are books out on that particular, I mean, and I can mention, but I don't know how much my listeners are going to be writing down the books, but there is a book called The Lost Book of Enki, which will talk about that. And there are many programs, which we'll dedicate a whole program to that. And maybe your brother would like to come on the show.
I believe that's the one my brother's listening to.
Okay,
that's
you
about whom?
See how that, offhand, Russ, I don't
Zachariah
know.
Sitchin? Did he write that?
Zachariah Sitchin.
He wrote that.
I can, you know, if I will write down some things
The
so that
12th
our
planet?
the 12th planet. If you can tell him that, and tell him I'm really interested in hearing from him.
Zachariah Sitchin was a prolific writer and a scholar. He was born in Israel and traveled the world over.
Exactly.
But he spoke many languages, but you may want to get the 12th Planet or the other book that you just mentioned.
And just to put this out there, I have a feeling, and I would like to know, you will tell me, I'm sure maybe that your twin brother has read that, okay? I just would like to know. But this to me, and we only have a short time to discuss this, is to show you how these vibrations go out. You see how important that is? You're sitting here, who you understand where I'm coming from, Russ. I only met you a little while ago, yet I feel that I've known you for many years. Well, many lifetimes, let's say. And Karen and Dawn and Freddie, we're all here in this studio. We need to say to ourselves, how does this work out? Maybe there's more to this. I did not know about your twin, but when you told me this, I said, oh my gosh, he has to understand where I'm coming from, where Russ is coming from. It's important. I would love to have him on the show, so please ask him.
And my twin brother and I have both had, different walks in life, but it's amazing how now we're together, and like, I look up to him because I live with my twin brother. He bought his house a couple years ago, and he is very curious about like UFOs, aliens, past lives.
Does he feel that he's been abducted? Because I feel that he has. Yes, absolutely. From what I'm hearing, absolutely. So wouldn't this fit in very well with the show that we're doing here?
Yes,
absolutely.
And he's 15 minutes older than me, so it makes me think like he was getting prepared before I was entering the world.
Absolutely. And I just found this out. We've known each other now for a few months, but you just told me that, and I get what we call my goosebumps. I'm getting them right now. Okay.
Wow.
And you have a lot of questions. You have to start doing some homework.
Okay.
Whether you watch Gaia or Cosmic Connections or Beyond Belief, Ancient Aliens. I mean, there are a lot of programs now on the YouTube that you can watch and get a lot of information. Another book you talked about, the Emerald Tablets you mentioned, that your brother has recommended.
That I listened to.
Oh, you listened to?
I listened to it too.
On YouTube?
Yes.
Okay. Another guy wrote that book, Billy Carson, is that who?
I think so.
Billy Carson is a prolific writer.
Yes,
very
he's
brilliant.
actually very good too.
And that book that he's written, revised or whatever, the Emerald Tablets, has sold millions and millions of copies throughout the world.
Wow.
So you might want to pick that up. That's another one. Or just
so that our listeners that are listening might be getting, not saying lost because it's very important
but you
information.
gotta do the homework.
So I was just going to say that. So if anybody that is interested in what you're talking about, these are important.
If you're going to understand who you are, where you come from, and where you're going, and your part in the universe, it's called homework.
Oh, that makes sense.
You've got to do. You can't just listen to Sally or me. You got to do a little bit. It's like going to college. You got the professor in front of the classroom. He's telling you, or she's telling you what to do, what pages to read, what books to go through, what chores you need to do. But you need to go beyond the classroom to do your homework outside, to really conceptualize all the constructs that they are passing on to you. That's when you grow and develop.
To expand my knowledge?
That's when you grow tremendously, not just in the classroom, but beyond the classroom, to read that book that she's recommending and other books that are referencing that book, if you will.
And that's what helps us get insight to
exactly
our
Absolutely.
life.
And I have to, because Freddie and Dawn are very quiet sitting over there, I have to ask them their input on some of this. How are you guys feeling about this? Do you feel connected to this? And I know you do. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, that's why they have you on.
I know, but I want to bring them on the show, and I really wanted Freddie to come on with his hat.
The funny thing about what I'm hearing is that everybody has an input as to what is going on. Everybody has a story, and I think that today's been stressed out to the max that everybody has their own story. I was going to ask you, to the prior show, how is it that we are able to go back in lives? Why is it that people have the ability of putting us into some kind of trance, and then all of a sudden, all these prior things occur? Even playing an instrument that you don't play today. How does that happen?
Because we have a memory. We were talking about subconscious and our superconscious, and I'm a very good example of that, and I'm not unique. I have never been able to paint in this lifetime, and yet when I suddenly, a lot of my memories came flooding back. Also, the fact that I was able to paint came back. I didn't know. And then some of these behind me are my art. I've never had a lesson, and a lot of this doesn't necessarily portray my past lives, but my sketching in the beginning did. So we don't ever lose in each lifetime what we've done, so to speak. It stays, as Aldo used to explain to me, in what we call our super consciousness. Now, in that super consciousness, with many, many lives, it's part of our subconscious that goes further down, for instance, and then we have the memory of it. We're not going to bring it all back, but we bring back what is significant for our lifetimes in this life. I think it was very significant for me to begin to wake up the fact that I used to paint, because I'm drawing things from lifetimes prior to this that I haven't seen. So for me, I needed to wake up in this lifetime.
Certainly.
So I'm questioning, why am I drawing all these sketches that I have no idea, but it was important. It was there.
From time before you said that, your guide, Aldo, he discovered you one day, 18 years ago, and he said, listen, I need to meet you because we have been together in other lifetimes, right?
Yes, yes.
Right? Then he proceeded to go over a lot of books, a lot of material, a lot of tapes, talk to you for many hours. Is right? Yes or no?
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the many books that he had, you read some of them. Wait a minute.
Yeah, go
And
ahead.
then some of them he read to you. Yes or no?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
So he was training and teaching and coaching you, probably to be where you are today, a spokesperson for this soft launch that the Pentagon has done recently. That, listen, you're not what you thought you were, right?
No, I'm not.
And in telling the humanity, the people here, that you're not who you traditionally thought you were based on the educational processes of the system, right?
Perfect.
It's
Right.
bigger than that.
Perfect, right?
And so
Perfect.
here are some books, some shows, radio.
Which I'm going to put, I'm actually getting a website
Oh.
again I'm going to put out, but I will put a lot of what we talk about, because we can't, not everyone's got a piece of paper to write down. I will, and it's really important, the fact that you've even mentioned that. Some of the books on various, it doesn't
Right.
have to necessarily be on UFOs, past lives, or whatever it is. We'll put down the authors and the books to read, because I can talk all I want. I'm not the only one coming out with these stories. There are many books out there, so it's very important that
Let me
people
ask you
know.
about Dolores Cannon.
Okay.
Now who is Dolores Cannon, if I may?
Well, Dolores Cannon was just she understood a lot.
Right.
But it was later in life, and I can relate a little bit to this too, that she suddenly understood what she was having not brought it up. And I may be wrong, because I don't know too much about
Sure,
it, but
sure.
I find it very interesting. It was later in life that she started to
True.
spread this message, as it has been for me too.
And so subsequent to that time, when she did come out, did she write a lot of books?
She wrote many, many books. I'm just in the
Traveled
process of
all over
writing-
the world?
She did, because it's like, to put it in our everyday life, it becomes like, I do not want to use the word obsession, but it becomes very important that we begin to start opening up to help people understand what is happening.
So if your coach helped you through a lot of books, a lot of seminars, a lot of radio, television programs, you should be doing the same, and you are doing the same.
I'm doing the same,
Right,
yes.
and you wrote your one book, you're writing another book, and now you want to be all over the world sharing that information that you discovered.
Absolutely,
Okay.
because I think
Okay.
it's important.
Go
I
ahead.
don't want to keep it a big
Go ahead.
secret.
Can I ask you both a question?
Sure.
Why is it that humans think other humans talking about aliens, UFOs, astral projections, abductions, why do other humans think they're crazy?
Because they're being trained another way. It's like, and me too, probably years ago, I used to hear some of these stories. I didn't relate to them, because since birth, we are told really that these you know, that this is weird, these things don't happen. But life itself is a miracle, and many things happen in our life. We don't know that. There is so much more. So the more people that begin to open up to the fact that they've had these dreams, or they've experienced things, or they've been abducted, the person listening doesn't necessarily have to believe it, but if it begins to open their mind, and that's what both Russ and I are trying to do, to open your mind that there is more. Because after all, this whole thing is a miracle. How are we even sitting here? Forget the law of attraction and everything that goes with it. The fact that we're even here to be able to talk the way that we are. Surely there's more. And there's many people coming out today with this. And I think more because of the internet, more and more people are beginning to get more curious because they're hearing more. We're just trained from birth to not begin to understand that. But I think it's changing. That's the most important. It is changing.
So how is it that there's been authors who wrote books decades ago, centuries ago, about what would be happening nowadays?
Because everything, and again, that could be, and I often say another show, we have access to the past, present, and future. And because if we begin to understand that, and I can't talk about it in the few minutes that we've got left, and from what I know too, but we have access to the future. There are people that prophesize, and they see the future. We can't, in our brain, let's say right now, even comprehend that. But the more we open up to the fact that maybe we can do that, maybe we just can, right?
Yes. So, like, right now, what we're seeing, like in the news and around the world, do you believe we'll be entering a World War III?
Yeah. Well, yes, but let's just say this. I can't prophesize for sure, but we need to all become not to scare our viewers in any way, but, you know, let's try to understand what's going on. Let's try to see that maybe we can make peace. I'm very much of balance here. I'm not here to scare people, but, you know, when we hear these things, we're going, where are we heading? So even questioning where are we heading, maybe it will make people a little bit more aware of, let's try to be kind. Let's finish, because I'm just told we only have 3 more minutes.
Okay, in 3 minutes.
Yes. Let's try and make this and finish it on a positive note, because that was negative.
Let's take 1 minute.
I'm sorry.
1 minute.
Yeah.
There are forces who are on the dark side. Cabal, Dracos, Illuminati, etc., on and on. There are forces on the good side, Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Moses, etc. So we have the good and the bad that we have to
balance it.
Okay.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't be around or the other side, but we have to get that balance. That's the most important. My message is, and I've talked about this too, let's be aware of what we're being confronted with, good and bad.
Okay.
But as long as we stay focused in our balance, then either side, it really doesn't matter, actually, as long as we stay positive as we can be, to meet other people in our circle that are understanding of this. And let's just enjoy life.
Okay.
Let's have the humor, which I did on the previous show. We've got 2 more minutes, and I'm going to say 2 more minutes.
One name I'd like to mention that you told me about, that I've recently discovered, his name is Neil Keenan, Keenan. Google Neil Keenan, watch him on YouTube, and then you get more information about the balance.
He's trying to counteract some of the, let's say, negatives, but again, just let's finish this.
No, I understand, but I want to throw that out for people who like to do research.
Right, okay. And I will write about this once I get my new website up.
Certainly, I appreciate it.
And I'll put these programs on there too.
I appreciate it. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're coming to the end of our show. I have 1 more minute. Everybody, please stay positive. We are still here, and we're here to enjoy our life.
And where can they find you?
They can find me on the Brooklyn Cafe on a Monday at 2:30. Call Me Zena. And anybody that's local, that's listening, we are going to start having meetups in this cafe after the show, Dawn, is that correct? Is Dawn still here?
I'm thinking maybe we do it for your show.
For the show, and then after the show, please come on down here. Brooklyn Cafe, address.
And they can call you to be on the air, 888-994-4995.
And let's just get the address in too.
2400 Northwest 2nd Avenue or Boca Raton Boulevard, Suite 13.
Perfect. Ask for Freddie and Dawn, and if I'm not here, they're the ones to talk to. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I'll see you next week.
Coincidence or not, it's time to trust your intuition and knowings. Thank you for joining me through this journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. I'm Sally Barnard, and you can find my book, artwork, and contact through artbysallybarnard.com. Join us next week. This has been Call Me Zena.